The Bruins finally hit the transfer portal. But what's next for UCLA basketball? And how much does the get of their newest addition actually affect next year's roster? Let's talk about it on Locked On UCLA.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everybody, it's your favorite host. It's Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Locked On UCLA. You can find it wherever you get your podcast. It's free and it's available on YouTube. So like, comment, and subscribe over there. Thanks for all your support, your team every day. First, thanks for making your first listen. This episode's brought to you by HelloFresh. All you have to do is skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. All you have to do is go to hellofresh.com/college60 and use the code college60 for 60% off plus free shipping. That's quite the deal. In the meantime, we're talking UCLA basketball and even more today. Lazar Stefanovic, UCLA getting the Bruins getting a Utah running in-conference transfer as Stefanovic, a former first-team All-Pac-12 freshman, improved his numbers from a freshman to a sophomore. And Mick Cronin's already gotten that first bite on the bait to come over to UCLA. So it's interesting with Stefanovic being 6'7". He's got 2 years of eligibility. And personally, I think this is a very good fit for UCLA. Stefanovic has a lot of good tools and personally can maybe earn himself some good playing time coming over. He's from Serbia, 6'7", just finished his sophomore year. And overall, we'll take a look at these numbers. Stefanovic, 6'7", just about 36% three-point shooter. And that would have been better than everybody but two on the UCLA roster this year. So that number would have been second, third on the most recent UCLA roster. And that was a 6% increase from his freshman year where he hit 30% three-point shots, averaged 10 points, over 10 points per game, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, 86% free throw shooter. And then looking on highlights on YouTube, some of his good accolades are his sneaky good defense with his long wingspan and his ability to come over and fill a spot. And I think he's like a hybrid, right? Lazar Stefanovic. He was one of those guys that kind of keyed it on for UCLA to make sure he did not go off against the Bruins. But for Stefanovic, one of his biggest games this year, we'll take a look at it, looking at his stats. He had 20 points a couple of times, but had 26 against Stanford in early February. The end of the season kind of ended more on a whimper, but he still averaged more than 10 points per game. So the big thing is he's got long wingspan, very good court vision for passing the basketball, which could help UCLA. One, if Tiger Campbell leaves, that could be another facilitator from the wing, getting it into the post to whoever's starting down low for UCLA. 2, he can shoot the 3 ball. UCLA is in dire need of someone who can consistently, while it might not be better than 40% per game, shoot the 3. And considering year 1 to year 2 improvements, 30% to 36%, just about him making about 55% from 3, making 55 threes, would help him and help the Bruins significantly. So he's a hybrid replacement for Singleton. He can help facilitate the basketball considering UCLA is expected. There's no rumor and word on Tiger Campbell yet, but if he leaves, that could be another big body to lob it in the post. Has good court awareness to go get open for somebody who's trying to dish him the ball on a nice, easy layup attempt on a backdoor cut. Or he can find those guys and pass them open. So he's got a variety of skills that UCLA needs moving forward in order to replace some guys. And he can do those in multiple ways. And he's size. So you've got that 6'7" body, whether it's a hybrid Clark Hawkes type of body, although he doesn't have those skill sets. He's got the 3-point shooting making ability. But the one problem is he only shoots 37% from the floor. And one of the knocks on him was his shot making ability and shot decision making, in terms of sometimes he might throw up an unnecessary shot or two. When he scored 26 points earlier this year in a start against Stanford, it took him 22 shots to do so, 10 of 22. And I know UCLA was led in scoring by Jaime Jaquez Jr. this most recent season, yet if Stefanovic, I'm not sure if he's going to come in trying to score 17 and 8 like Jaquez was, right? 17 points, 8 rebounds, something similar. So what's important for Stefanovic is I think he's going to get a good role, big time get for UCLA, and he's going to fill some holes. He's not going to fill a specific player role other than David Singleton necessarily in terms of being able to shoot the three and get that shooter that they needed to fill that role. But he's bigger than Singleton, and he can maybe pass a little bit better and be a different type of defender with his longer wingspan. And he's got another couple years of eligibility if he so chooses to use them. So those are the big factors for UCLA getting their first transfer portal get. Again, you can go back and look at who do they get in terms of guys from the transfer portal. You got Miles Johnson. Hey, does the name Johnny Juzang ring a bell? But the only difference is we've got him from Utah, stealing him one last steal, or what could be one of more, from the Pac-12 before UCLA heads into the Big Ten. So if Stefanovic plays 2 years, I think that's a really good get. If he's just a one-year contributor, that's still not a bad stopgap. And it's good to see UCLA find someone that can offset the shooting loss of David Singleton's loss of eligibility and can help in certain little ways pick up the slack that certain guys were expecting to leave, like in my mind, Tiger Campbell, if he decides not to come back. Clark and Jaquez, who have declared, and Clark could still come back, get those similar, the body type, the defense, the intensity, while bringing the scoring along with it. So you play someone who scores 10 points per game with another player who scores 10 points per game in almost the same way in terms of shooting from outside. So that's a pretty good get for UCLA, in my perspective. I know it's announced on Saturday, but we didn't do a breaking news. We're talking about it today. And who else is someone looking out for? There's a report from Bruin Report Online on 24/7 Sports about there's, another late get. I know they're looking at somebody who is in France, but there's also another guy UCLA could be going after. But we're going to tell you first about how you can go check with FanDuel, because, hey, FanDuel Sportsbook, there's no better place than joining America's #1 sportsbook. From grand slams, no-hitters, double plays, everything's back. Major League Baseball is here. In the meantime, if you're a new customer, go check out a no-sweat first bet, up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you mess up on your first bet. That's why you got to go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon. Sign up, place your first bet, and get to $1,000 back in bonus bets if you don't win. Got to go check it out. So don't miss your chance to get $1,000 back in bonus money on FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, an official partner of Major League Baseball and a sports betting partner here with us at Locked On. Cruising on into segment 2 of Locked On UCLA. Who else is UCLA going after in terms of late recruiting for this class of 23 year? We thought the Bruins missed on some guys, maybe Marcus Adams, depending on his reclassification. There's different ways the Bruins need to fill out this roster, still with a lot of question marks, because Clark has declared he could come back depending on how that all plays out. Jaquez has declared very confident he's not choosing to come back. Campbell, that's an interesting one. Bailey and Bona, it seems like we have had no word on their ideas about how they're going to move forward. But I saw this earlier today, posted by Bruin Report Online. I was like, all right, let's take a look. There's a 7'3" Spanish prospect, Ade Mata, who is playing on a Spanish pro team in Spain. But then, based on the report and the article I've been reading, he wants to play in the U.S. Maybe not exactly Abramo Zanca-esque, as he came over from Italy, right, playing in the Super Leagues and all that. But he's coming from a Spanish pro team and wants to play for an American college in the 23 and 24 school year. And what I talked about last summer, if you've missed it and you're newer to the channel, how much and how important the impact of the hiring of Ivo Simovic is, because he's going to go and get these guys from overseas, one of the latest recruits for, one of the better recruiters overseas for UCLA. That's how they got Abramo Zanca. That's how you can go steal an Adem Bona. You can go find these guys if you want to go get the French guy that's still out there, or go get a Ade Mata, who is 7'3", and I believe has a 7'7" wingspan. There's other programs reportedly like Duke and Gonzaga, according to this Bruin Report Online article. But UCLA might be in the works for some big post player. And while the spring signing period starts, I believe, on April 12th, there's still some time, and he has to decide, hey, is he going to just choose where to go to college at the end of the year, at the end of, what he's doing overseas, or is he going to sign an NIL or NLI, National Letter of Intent, and come over to UCLA? But this is a guy who is extremely, extremely big. In the FIBA U17 World Cup, averaged 12.5 points, 5 rebounds, blocked almost 2 shots per game, and nearly 2 assists. And in the championship game against the U.S., had 16 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 block shots. And he is somewhat considered in the 2024 NBA draft as the number 1 post product available. So that could be someone who UCLA could go after. And he's only 18, so he's got to wait that next year anyway to even be ready for the NBA. So what he's saying is, hey, let's go test my waters in college basketball, be one of those late overseas recruits that comes out and dominates the game. And that could be a special get for UCLA. He just turns 18 in April. So he's 7'3", weighs 243 pounds, could be some big muscle for UCLA in the post, considering Devin Williams. He's got we'll see how he plays. Not exactly a full center. Not sure about Adembona's health, recovery, and if he's actually going to come back to UCLA. And his wingspan for Mata, 7'7". And a lot of the article talks about his ability to move quickly, fluidly. This isn't Victor Wembanyama, but this is a good get if UCLA can get him late in the portal. You've got Stefanovic, who will fill a role. But if you can get someone like this, as dynamic as this player could be, a 7'3" beast from overseas, who seemingly is a one-year done type of guy, all of a sudden that recruiting class wouldn't look so bad, and UCLA might actually have a very tall, big team, as opposed to an undersized roster that Mick Cronin generally has. You go from, all right, Adembona, 6'10", uber athletic, but you got Jaquez, 6'7", Clark, got the big guards. But if all of a sudden everybody's 6'4", up to 7'3", that is a really big team. You can have Nuba potentially back. If you have Bona, and you could almost be a little miniature Arizona this year, right? Where they had their 2 bigs, Balo and Subeles. If you have potentially a Mata, and if Bona comes back, that would be a combination. One could also argue how if Mata is being recruited so heavily this late in the period, then Bona probably isn't expected to return. Those are all things that you can really think about. But this is a 7'3" post player playing for the Spanish ACB, one of the better pro leagues in the world. And if you're trying to wonder and fully comprehend how you play in a pro overseas, this is what Abramo Zonka just did. You can go play pro overseas, be a youngster, be one of those amateur professional players, and then you can move yourself over and play in the U.S. It takes a little bit more, paperwork and everything in between, but then you're eligible and able to play in the U.S. So this could be something where a sneaky late get for UCLA for someone from the Spanish side, and this is where Ivo Samovic's impact goes beyond just the X's and O's on the court. It's how can we go recruit like we can in Westwood? UCLA can go get any player in the world if they can just go find them. And so far they're finding this talent. And if Duke and Gonzaga and some of the other blue bloods are all getting in on this, I guess, it could be a debate if you call Gonzaga a blue blood. But as you can see, the bigger programs right now or all time starting to, sneak a peek at this, right? Just like people were slowly trying to get at Marcus Adams Jr. near the end of his recruiting cycle. It's just up to UCLA to go out and get him and prove that Westwood is the place for him. And if that's even where it's going to work out, if he's going to stay overseas until he's 19, if he wants to go G League, those are all options and available to him. Yet UCLA has they've got Stefanovic, they got the portal, and they could get a late guy from overseas in Ade Mata, who has put up some numbers in the U17 FIBA World Championships, and he's playing in one of the better Spanish leagues overseas in Europe. So it's nice to see that, and we'll talk about it more if there's more developments. That's just a little article I saw. Credit to the Bruin Report online. I was like, all right, that's got to be talked about. We're going to cruise on in Locked On UCLA. And to end this show, we're going to talk a little bit both about the baseball and softball wrap-ups this weekend. Softball, well, they're just absolutely dominating, right? They have won now a total of 9 in a row in conference play. They're 12-3, 36-4 overall, including their most recent sweep of Oregon State, where they won 6-2, run-ruled them 11-0 on Friday, and then on Saturday beat them 6-0 as they just absolutely flattened the Beavers at home at Easton Stadium, and they're going to be heading on the road to the likes of Arizona in Tucson. One of 2 trips they'll be making to Tucson before the regular season is over, both to Arizona and to take on the Pac-12 tournament for the first time this season. One of the biggest keys of success, which we're going to touch on lightly here for UCLA softball, one, Megan Faraimo, who I think she was on a radio interview the other day, but I think last night or whatever, but she has been dominating. 5-0 in her last 5 appearances, 24 2/3 scoreless innings, No runs, 5 walks, 34 strikeouts to 5 walks. She's given up 13 hits, but they're all singles. So she's not getting beat with the long ball as the confidence and the ability and all of that is surging forward for Kelly Inouye Perez's squad. You can just see the team that's ranked number 3 in the nation just trying to prove, hey, that one little blip on the record, those little early losses, we were waiting for an Aaliyah Jordan return. Faraimo, right? Megatron, or, Megatron, whatever you're going to call her. She is on fire, leading the Bruins to what could be a dream-like year, a Cinderella-like run moving forward into the eventual tournament, which is coming up sooner rather than later. And the other thing is, you can't forget the youngsters, and this is what they just tweeted out the other day, did UCLA Softball. They have never had 2 freshmen with over 39 RBIs in a single season. Over 39 RBIs in a single season. They've never had 2 of them. And the season is only in April. We haven't gotten to May. There hasn't been any tournament play yet, no NCAA tournament play. And between Megan Grant and Jordan Woolery, they are number 2 and number 4 across the country when it comes to freshmen driving in runs. 42 for Grant. Woolery has 39 RBIs. That's never happened for UCLA. So the youth is starting to pick it up. They're figuring it out. You've got the senior and Jordan who came back. You've got Maya Brady who's just done about everything. And Megatron, who is just absolutely dominating in the circle, and everything's coming in the right way for UCLA, who's number 3 in the country. Of course, what are you behind? The 2 Oklahoma schools, and you got to prepare to move forward with some successful matchups there. So those are just your little updates, how softball's doing. They're dominating. They're kicking some butt, saying, hey, this is what we need to do, and that's your quick little update. When Max gets back, he can go more full in depth on it, but just figured, hey, let's shout them out after a dominant weekend series. In the meantime, as UCLA baseball has been struggling, they actually went through an unbeaten week technically. They won 3 games. They tied the last game due to travel restrictions, because that's the baseball thing, because the Utah and UCLA baseball series finale went 4.5 hours, about 11 innings. They were tied at 10, and then they had to call the game off, so UCLA has their first draw of the year. So they beat Long Beach in 13 innings, a 2-out, 2-run game-tying home run in the 9th at Long Beach to eventually win that game, win a game against Utah Thursday, win another extra inning game, I believe, Friday night, and then Saturday afternoon, you play one more extra inning game. That pitching staff has to be overworked at this point for UCLA, considering, hey, you've played Tuesday through Saturday. That's a very condensed schedule, and when it gets to tournament play, you're going to have 4 or 5 games on top of 3 to 4 days. That's just a preparation for the NCAA tournament, or dare I say, coming up in Scottsdale, the Pac-12 baseball tournament, which is about to be in its 2nd year. But the big things for the weekend, one, you saw Kyle Karros get back in the lineup from his ankle injury. He didn't do much. He didn't have many appearances or opportunities. He just went 0 for 1 in 2 appearances over the weekend, but nice to see him get back. But it was the Deuce Gorson show, because he had 375 of the week, 6 hits over 4 games. It was just able to continue to keep UCLA in these games and get big hits over the week, getting 2 hits in 3 separate games. I would think that's your player of the week. In the meantime, just to get back on track, have an unbeaten week. I know the tie makes it a little weird, and with the postponement against Washington State the week ago, it gets kind of confusing, rumbling in your head. But yet UCLA is finding ways, hey, this is how we're going to succeed, and they're finding ways to win. And John Savage tends to get his teams very competitive, even if they're good or not, to get ways to win. And that's with their Friday night starter in Jake Brooks struggling. That's with your best player, your best hitter, not even playing a large portion of these last few weeks when the Bruins have struggled, but they found ways to win and get late game magic, except for the last 3 innings against the Utah game where travel restrictions hurt that one. So for UCLA baseball, they have figured it out. And I think as high as they're ranked number 22 in the country based on the variety of polls across the U.S. for college baseball. So it's nice to see the Bruins getting some love. Not sure if they're really poking holes into the argument that they aren't deserving of a regional with that slide. I think it's kind of out of the question at this moment, barring a late season run and a Pac-12 championship and tournament championship that they can host at this point. But we'll see how that all plays out moving forward. So that's your UCLA softball and UCLA baseball updates here to wrap this episode up of Locked On UCLA. I'm Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, and as we like to end every episode, we're going to get those hands up for an 8-clap, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA. Fight, fight, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Go Bruins.